Traders were moving money on Rachel Reeves' budget before she'd even stood up to deliver it. And buried inside that budget was a change that quietly costs you £8,000 in tax-free savings. From April 2027, the cash ISA allowance is being cut to £12,000, while the limit for stocks and shares ISAs stays at £20,000. That £8,000 gap is what this video is about. Most channels have covered the headline. What they haven't covered is what's underneath it. The history, the stealth mechanisms, the age exemption that has a hole in it, and the reason this policy might not even be final. Stick around, because the last part changes how you should actually plan around this, not just how you feel about it. So here's the quick version of what happened. Britain's fiscal watchdog, the Office for Budget Responsibility, accidentally published the full budget forecast before Reeves had even started speaking. An unprecedented error that sparked anger in the House of Commons and a frenzy on trading floors. The document was uploaded to the OBR website on an unprotected link that was never advertised, and sterling dropped in the chaos that followed. So the policy that affects your savings was essentially road-tested by markets before it was democratically announced. Make of that what you will. Now, the actual number. You can still pay £20,000 a year into ISAs in total. But from 6th April 2027, under 65s can only put £12,000 of that into a cash ISA. The remaining £8,000 has to go into a stocks and shares ISA, an innovative finance ISA, or another qualifying wrapper. One thing to know before we go further. This only applies to new contributions from 6th April 2027 onwards. You've still got this current tax year, right up to 5th April 2027, to save the full £20,000 in a cash ISA tax-free. And anything already sitting in your cash ISA from this year or previous years stays protected and keeps earning tax-free interest. Right, now that you know what's happening, here's the angle almost nobody is running with. Everyone talks about this like it's a radical attack on savers. I get why it feels that way, but here's what the history actually shows. When ISAs launched in 1999, the total allowance was £7,000. Full stop. That wasn't £7,000 for shares on top of £3,000 for cash. It was one combined pot. And of that £7,000, the absolute most you were allowed to hold in cash was £3,000. The rest had to go into stocks and shares. The original ISA was never designed to be a cash hoarding vehicle. It was built to nudge people into shares, with cash as a secondary option. Major changes came in July 2014, when the cash and overall limits rose to £15,000. Then, in the spring budget of 2017, that rose again to £20,000, and it's stayed there ever since. So, the version of the cash ISA people are mourning right now. The fully flexible, all-in-cash £20,000 version only existed from 2017. It's 9 years old. The government is arguably just dragging the ISA back toward what it was always supposed to be, after it drifted into something else over 2 decades. That doesn't make the cut painless, but it does change the framing. Here's where it gets stranger, and hold on to this, because it connects to the last point in this video. Before the cut was even officially confirmed, the rumour alone was enough to change behaviour. Skipton Building Society reported a 45% jump in new cash ISA accounts opened as people rushed to lock in the old allowance ahead of what they thought was coming. The government hadn't even confirmed the policy yet, and savers were already moving money. The threat of losing something moved people more than the policy itself ever did. Because £12,000 could have landed a lot lower. Treasury officials at various points reportedly considered cutting the cash allowance to £10,000, with some pushing for an even lower figure. The Building Societies Association modelled a cut to £5,000 specifically, and estimated it could mean 17,000 fewer mortgage loans and roughly £7 billion off GDP over 5 years. There was a genuine public data fight between finance lobby groups over whose numbers to trust. £12,000 is what came out the other side of that fight. So if you're frustrated, understand that number is the result of real pushback, not a starting offer. And here's the part I promised you, the one that ties this together. The over 65 exemption is real. The cash ISA allowance for those 65 and over stays at £20,000. But it has a hole almost nobody's talking about. That exemption kicks in at the start of the tax year you turn 65, not on your actual birthday. So the timing of your birthday relative to April matters more than people realise. And even pensioners who keep their full £20,000 cash ISA allowance aren't exempt from the new 22% charge on cash sitting inside a stocks and shares ISA. That flat 22% charge applies to any interest earned on cash held within a non-cash ISA at any age, designed specifically to stop people using stocks and shares ISAs as a workaround. So the protected group is only protected on one of the two new levers. That's not how this is being reported anywhere else. And speaking of that charge, this is where the squeeze gets genuinely uncomfortable. At the same time, tax on savings interest outside ISAs is rising 2 percentage points across every band from April 2027, to 22% for basic rate taxpayers, 42% for higher rate, and 47% for additional rate. So your tax-free cash allowance shrinks, and the tax rate on savings outside the wrapper rises at the same time. Both levers tighten together. There's a third lever that's already tightened, quietly, before 2027 even arrives. Dividend tax is rising too, from April 2026, a full year earlier than the headline ISA change. Most people haven't noticed that one, because it doesn't come with a big round number attached to it. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe now. I break down exactly what's changing in UK tax and savings rules every week, before most people even hear about it. And drop a comment telling me which part of this surprised you most. It genuinely helps this reach more people who need to see it. Now, the last point, the one that actually changes how you should plan. This policy has already been paused, revived, and softened once, and it's still not fully settled. Reform was expected, but didn't appear in the July 2025 Mansion House speech after industry backlash. It got confirmed at the November 2025 budget, and even at the July 2026 Mansion House speech, just days ago, Reeves avoided mentioning cash ISAs directly, saying only that she'll continue to consider further changes to ISAs. That's a chancellor who has already reversed course once on this exact policy. £12,000 is confirmed for now. Confirmed for now and permanent are not the same thing. So here's what to actually do with that. Don't build your entire savings strategy around £12,000 as gospel. This number has already moved once under public pressure, and it can move again. What's certain is the window. You have this tax year to use the full £20,000 cash ISA allowance before the cut lands, and anything already in your ISA from previous years stays protected regardless of what happens next. If you're under 65, and you've been putting off a stocks and shares ISA because the cash ISA felt like enough, the government has effectively made that decision for you. A smaller cash allowance plus higher tax outside the wrapper is a deliberate nudge toward investing. The ISA started in 1999 as a vehicle to get people investing. For 20 years, it drifted into something else. Now it's being pushed back toward its original purpose. The question isn't whether that's fair. It's what you do with the time you've got left before April 2027. If you want to know exactly what to do with that £8,000, the low-risk options inside a stocks and shares ISA, and how to move without taking on risk you're not comfortable with, that's the next video.